This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to another episode of my show. This is the Oracle Laura Show, and I am your host in more ways than one today. And I am your host, Oracle Laura. Today I have a very special guest. We are going to be discussing zombies today. Now, this special guest has had a web series, and it was called Zombie with a Shotgun, but it has now turned into a feature film, and it's coming out with a sequel. So there's going to be a Zombie with a Shotgun 2. There's also, it was a comic book for a while there, and now it's going into a video game. So I have a very special guest. We're going to be talking all about zombies and all about his video game and his sequel to his movie. Please welcome my very special guest, Hilton Ariel Ruiz. Welcome, Hilton.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So please tell us all about your film for those who haven't seen it yet. Now, we're going to be getting onto this subject a little bit with your zombie film, and the reason why is because people who know me well know that I predicted this pandemic of COVID-19 back in 2014 and 15. I was posting all over social media about how it's going to happen, and in great detail, mind you. And so that came true. So the zombie thing is really interesting in regards to the pandemic. And please, let's discuss a little bit of that. But first, let's talk about your film. Tell us about your film and the storyline and why that's so popular and why it's becoming a sequel.
Yeah, absolutely. So Zombie with a Shotgun, I started shooting it on 2016. And again, it started as a web series and then a comic. And then we decided to go on a campaign to do a feature. The film was shot here in New York City. And what happened is that I wanted to do my own interpretation of the zombie genre, which was to have the point of view of the zombie. And having the actor in the film and being the point of view is basically the zombie is actually the star of the film. We have the zombie in the very beginning, knowing a little bit more about his origins and everything. And as he transitions to becoming the zombie, and it's ironic that you talked about how you predicted the whole pandemic that was happening, and a lot of people that watched the film was like, wow, it's almost what's really happening now with the whole pandemic and how everything is just about there's such a conspiracy. So in the film you definitely feel that conspiracy of the government and what they're playing, what's happening to Aaron, who plays this zombie with a shotgun. So you follow this guy who definitely is infected with this virus. He has no idea how he has got this virus, but clues start to roll on as we watch the film. I don't want to give too much of the film. We'd love everyone to get a chance to watch the film and judge for themselves of what they like about the film, what they feel about the film. So having the film ended, we released it in 2019. Just a couple months from the pandemic, which was it was like maybe 2 months after release, pandemic happened, and unfortunately, it was a little bit sad. I mean, because we never got the chance to go to the festivals, or we never got the chance to go to the conventions because of that whole thing. But definitely, the film definitely has elements of what we lived through during the pandemic. And watching this film could definitely make you say, oh my God, this is exactly what's going on. So there we left off with, at the very end of Zombie with a Shotgun, here Aaron's still trying to learn answers, trying to get the answers of how he's become now this fully zombified so-called monster that everyone predicts. So one of the things that I did with the film was to, what a lot of people was a little bit of against with, which is sort of weird. You get these like weird fans that come on and say, the mythology is so wrong. How can you destroy the mythology that zombies are not allowed to talk, move, hold guns? And here, this again, it was my own interpretation. I wanted to have this zombie to basically be human-like, because I felt that, when people are sick, it's just people that are sick just want to be cured. They want to be able to know what's wrong with them. And in real life, I talk about how growing up in New York City with HIV and the AIDS pandemic, they just wanted to get cured, and people were scared of them as if they were zombies. They wanted to be near them and touch them, but they were just human. They just wanted to get answers, and I definitely relate that to this first part of Zombie with a Shotgun. And now we are starting a campaign which will be launching this Monday, April 4th, on an Indiegogo campaign for Zombie with a Shotgun Part Two, which will start off how we ended in Part One.
Yeah, today is March 30th, 2022. So that's going to be coming out very soon then. And
Yep.
I noticed you were saying that your timing of when you came out with your feature film. So you had really, really good timing. And I would have to say that I've chosen the right shirt to wear as well. Talking about
Yeah, I
talking
noticed that.
about
That's
being
awesome.
infected, not just about zombies, but about being infected. Now
Yeah, yeah.
I have a really good story about this shirt actually. I didn't wear it just because I knew we'd be talking about the pandemic and zombies, but also that I had found this shirt outside. I was guided to it by my spirit guides. I'm psychic and the dead talk to me. And they had guided me to this, and it was before the pandemic even hit. And I was like, okay, cool. It's like a Walking Dead T-shirt, and I'll take that. And I didn't know at the time why until the pandemic hit, and then I realized, they were warning. They were saying, okay, now it's coming. This is the time to grab this because it's going to be hitting soon. But I like your concept about the zombie not really being able to, he's trying to cure himself. He's not really understanding what's happening to himself because there is sort of that double personality, similar to a vampire. You sort of, you feel guilt and you feel bad for killing someone, but at the same time, you're trying to heal yourself and you're given into it. So it's almost like you've got this demon in you who is controlling your mind, and you're saying, well, I need to do this, but you're like, but I don't want to, and you're trying to cure yourself. So that's a good concept to have in the movie, because then everyone can relate to it. The good people who don't think it's good to be killing people are sort of relating now. They're relating to the character more because he doesn't really mean to do it, right?
Correct.
So I like that. It's good
Yeah,
to
no,
get that.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we continue that on the sequel that, it's funny that you say that because we are going to introduce vampires in the second part.
That's why I had my hair this way today. I decided to do a little vampire thing with the dark lips and all that rather than do zombie face.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I did watch your trailer for your film, Zombie with a Shotgun. And I did then see that you had a short for the vampire one. And
Yes.
and I thought I recognized one of the actors in that. Who's the man in the brown leather jacket?
Oh, yes, that's Jimmy. Yes, absolutely. He's definitely in a you probably must seen him in other films. He's definitely and he's an awesome. I mean, having him on that vampire film, it was just incredible. I'll tell you a little bit quick story about it. So that short film is called Clans Rules, right? The poster and the title is a little bit controversy, but once you watch the film at the very end, you know why the title was created, everything like
Yeah,
that. So during the whole pandemic, as us artists, we suffered, especially independent artists. We suffered so much of like we didn't have that permanent gig. We were always dependent on people helping us finance our projects or getting these gigs here out there. And unfortunately, everyone had to sit down and basically take a seat until this whole pandemic was done. And again, as us independent artists, that crushed us a lot because after the pandemic was going, it's still it's still continuing the pandemic. There was no really understanding of what we were going to do if there was going to be any jobs, compared to someone that is already in the system. And I've just felt that there was a way to do something to still have my ability to do films. I felt that that was the only way for me to feel alive, to keep on, just let me do a project, even though it's really difficult during the pandemic. So I choose this vampire film that I created a script years ago and I made into a short. And everyone was like, you can never get actors. It's really impossible because the pandemic was really in the midst of the pandemic. And let me tell you, I just, I'm that guy that's like, I've been doing this for a while. I'm like, don't worry about it, man. And it was really difficult to find actors. I was actually blessed and lucky that I got a group of guys that were freaking awesome. And one of the guys was Jim. He was the gentleman you was talking about, was amazing. I had basically begged him to, like, hey, I need you to be in the film, and came on board, and it was just awesome. Uh, he's definitely a seasoned actor. He's done a lot of films. Like I said, you've probably seen him in other films, and he's coming up with also pretty awesome horror films. I think 3 or 4 other films he's coming out with, and him and I talk on a regular basis. But Clans Rouge is definitely a film about it's about slavery, a vampire clan that was during slavery times, and they were in the midst of a fight through the Ku Klux Klan. And now during modern times, that rivalry comes back, and they meet once again. And there, I don't want to give too much of the story, but that's basically like the storyline. And one of the main storyline is that Jim, who plays, and I totally forgot the name of the character there, but he's actually looking for the vampire pill to cure his 2 sons that have a sickness. And he finds himself in the midst of this rivalry. And that's you can find the film in Tubi, Amazon, and even on my YouTube channel. I have it there. It's youtube.com/, my full name, Hilton Ariel Ruiz, and you can watch it. Just Google also Clans Rules, and you'll be able to see all the places where it's streaming.
Okay. So I noticed, going back to Zombie with a Shotgun, I noticed that you had an actor. I think it was the main character, the main actor. I was looking at
Yes,
your IMDb.
Braden Body. Yes.
And so he's from Days of Our Lives. Did I read that right?
I know he has done a multiple projects. I won't doubt it that he's probably done things in Days and Lives, but he's done a lot of things in the past. But yes, I won't be, like I said, I won't be surprised if he was in Days of Our Lives.
I was doing my second detective research work. I was researching your films, but also I was researching the actors and who they were. I believe it was Scott. I might have that wrong, but I believe he played as Scott in Days of Our Lives. So that's where I got that from. So now, interestingly enough, I believe you say that you are working on a video game for Zombie with a Shotgun. Is that correct?
Yes, we've been working on this video game for a while, and we are putting characters from the first film and also on the second film. So definitely look out for that. We're going to be creating it for. It's going to be a PC friendly game, and definitely a retro game. It gives somewhat of a homage to the '80s feel of video games.
So I looked at some of the graphics, but it was just ones that you had been starting on. So it's not the final project that
Yeah, no, it's not the final project. You could actually download a demo game, and you could play it just a bit, just to see how people like it and everything before we release it.
And the reason why I was mentioning that is because I was wondering. I noticed you said that Zombie with a Shotgun, that there was a comic as well. Is that true?
Yes. So
So
it's a
is
pretty.
it going to be based on? Is it going to be based on that, and it's going to look a little bit more graphic art, or is it going
It's
to be a little bit more reality based, like where they're, how video games nowadays, they're extremely advanced compared to what they used to be.
Yeah, it's more of like a retro feel of the '80s play game. So it has a little bit of more of a old school kind of 24-bit sort of graphics.
So more like the
So
comic,
everything.
did you say?
Say again.
So it'll be a little bit more like the comic then? The
A little
graphic?
bit, yeah. The artists that came on board for the video game, they decided to go in to use their artists to create some of the graphics for the video game. But you definitely watching the film, I think there's more of a parallel from the film to the video game, because there are characters from the film that will be in the video game more than characters from the comic book. When we created the comic book, we, of course, the comic book was more of, it's free range. You can do anything any in the fantasy world. And after the comic book, we decided to do the feature. And unfortunately, there's the budget cannot really match some of the things with the comic book, but we try to keep it as parallel as possible from the comic book. And so yeah, so there it's pretty cool, the things that the journey from Zombie with a Shotgun to where it is, and we're still continuing to go. And it's pretty and awesome. I appreciate that, like, the fans definitely support this project. I mean, we're probably like one of the most, like, very independent project that has a comic, a video game coming out, featured web series, and it's still there, where we don't have anybody from the system, as we would say, that's come on board to keep this alive. It's all just the love of the fans.
Well, what I was sensing earlier when I was looking at the video game, and even earlier before that, when I read that you had the comic and the video game coming out, I was sensing that if you come out with a video game soon, it would possibly create more sequels of your films, and maybe even a TV series, a TV show. It's just something I sensed from that.
Yeah, no,
As opposed to the order being later and the video game coming after. I felt that if you did the video game soon, it would sort of influence that.
absolutely. We totally agree on that as well. And that's one of the goals that we definitely would love to do. We wanted to aim this more for like a television series, and that's something that we definitely would love to do. And not to go back to the whole pandemic, but it really put a really hurt on trying to get things going, as in like trying to get this much more. We feel, and I feel, that the project would have been much more popular, get out would have been out there more, where the pandemic made us not go to these conventions and promote the project. But that is definitely a goal we would love to do. We would love to do a whole television series, and I definitely do see that happening down the road.
Well, I know with my predictions, having predicted the pandemic, I know it's not always something that can be stopped, because otherwise I can't see it. Like as a time traveler, at least that's the way I see it, is I'm time traveling and I'm seeing the future, and then I'm coming back and I'm telling everybody and I'm warning what's going to happen. It's something that possibly can't be stopped from occurring, because otherwise I wouldn't have seen it already occur in the future, right? Like this is sort of the past.
Yeah.
But I did do my best in warning everybody about it, and I'm hoping that enough people had paid attention. I was already ready. I mean, I had changed my career to being something I could do from home, and I was already stocked up on canned goods, long before it hit, because I knew it was coming. And I'm in the industry, along with in your industry. I do a little bit of TV and stuff myself. And the thing is, I know a lot of actors. You were saying it was, they were warning you it would be hard to get some actors to get on board with your projects, your films. And it's true. I know a lot of actors who are extremely, well known, famous. They've been on TV and in movies a lot. And they had to actually film their own scenes. They had to try to get the good cameras and film with their phones and try to get the footage to their agent and then get it to the producer. They weren't even able to really go on set and get filmed because of the virus. So I could see how it would have been difficult. But so I'm really impressed that you were able to get those people involved
Yeah,
regardless. That's good.
it was definitely hard, and what helped me is I had already worked with two of the people before, and getting them, that they got on board. But I think we had 8 or 10 actors to come on board. It was really difficult. I mean, I had I think about 4 or 5 times actors had to drop out because they were concerned
Oh,
um, the pandemic. In the last like minute, they were like, "No, I'm sorry, can't do it," and everything. So I understand. I understand. But again, everything's meant for a reason. I don't think. I think what the people that came on board probably were the perfect casting for the part. I was cast for the part. They were perfect.
everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to get back onto the topic of the zombie theme. My belief, like it says in the Bible, the dead shall rise at the end and walk the earth. And so I know some of the zombie concept from movies and comics, they sort of base it on that. They base it on the fact that people are going to rise out of the graves and they're going to be walking with their bodies. And I I sort of see beyond the Bible scriptures. People misinterpret it. Everybody misinterprets the Bible. It's known fact that everybody misinterprets it and uses it for their own viewpoint. But my belief is that only the Spirit's going to rise at the end. The dead are going to rise and walk the earth, and in the spirit form, not in the body form. But the zombie idea that they base that on, it could very well turn into a situation of people walking around like zombies because the virus. I could name one movie with this Will Smith, interesting person to be talking about right now.
Mhm.
But if you see that zombie movie, they do talk a lot about that. The fact that the people walking around who are infected with this virus, they're like zombies, and he can only kill them with a shotgun. But how did you come up with your concept of where did you get the idea for coming up with a zombie with a shotgun, particularly?
Yeah, I tell you, interesting. When I wanted to do my own interpretation of the whole zombie genre, um, I created an idea before the zombie with a shotgun. So, and again, like I always had me living in New York City, always felt that whole, again, going back to the AIDS/HIV pandemic, was sort of like a way to tell a story about how someone is sick and just needed help, and how everyone just ran away from the sick. I always had that sort of concept on me, but never really like figured out, never pulled the trigger on it. So what happened is that the whole web series kind of got really popular. And here's an amazing part. My first web episode of a Zombie with a Shotgun was in 2012. So it's 10 years old, Zombie with a Shotgun. And I tell a lot of people that, and they're like, wow, but I tell them this is the way, this is how it is with stuff that you need to, work on it to get your dreams to come true.
Yeah.
And again, having that, going back to the whole concept in 2012, it was Braden, who was at the time living in New York City as well. Him and I would hang out and stuff. And I say, hey, these web series really popular. We need to do some horror web series. I think we should do one on zombie, and we should do another one on some paranormal stuff. So, and he was, he was available. I said, look, listen, let's do this story about you being the point of view. And I wanted also to have some sort of romance in it. I wanted to like have this zombie, romantic sort of like love story kind of put together. And I just felt like there was nothing like that. I wanted to do something. There's nothing like a love story, but with a zombie, I thought it would be so awesome. And this, so when we were starting to do the whole thing, we had a bunch of titles, and Zombie with a Shotgun definitely was one that would attract a lot of people. And as you heard before, Hobo with a Shotgun was very popular, and it's having, hey, Zombie with a Shotgun would be such an amazing title, because how many zombie films are made every year? And one thing we needed to do is separate ourselves from everything, and the title was the magic. That it was the one that separated us from everything. Once that title came out, everybody's like, wow, this is what we wanted to see. But I tell you what really made Zombie with a Shotgun go viral, because that first episode went viral, and it was the first time I experienced it, and I rolled with the punches ever since. It was the first episode at the very end when Aaron, our character, kisses his love interest. He tells There's a little voiceover that he says that he's a zombie, he's infected with the zombie virus, and at the same time he kisses his love interest, which is Rachel. And everyone who saw that was like, wait a minute, how's this zombie who's infected kissing this girl? It's almost making out at the very end of that episode. And that what I'll tell you, that very last ending is the engine that still continues from Zombie with a Shotgun, because the 80% of the fans were females, and they all went crazy. Everyone thought it was a television series. You wouldn't even believe how many television networks contacted me, because they thought it was a trailer for a real 5 episode, like half an hour to 45-minute series. But they didn't realize it's a web series, because it was so new. They were like, web series? What's a web series? Because the web series just came out. So I was getting calls from all these networks saying, wait, we want to see your 5 episode television series. I'm like, no, it's not a television series. It's a web series. So they would get disappointed. I was like, no, we didn't even finish the whole web series. It's just 1 episode. So I was getting like maybe thousands of people writing me up a day, and just started getting really popular. And I tell you, I think that was the romance, the love element of Zombie with a Shotgun is what I think would created the whole viral thing.
So you're saying 80% of your viewership for that film were female?
Yeah, when we first came out with that first episode. Now I think it's balanced out, but I would have to say it's still more of a female driven um product. I'd
Okay,
even tell you,
okay,
even
so hear this, guys. Hear this out there. If you want the babes, you gotta go the zombie route. Become
yeah,
a
no,
zombie and you get all the chicks.
yeah. Hey, look, listen, the guy who played Aaron, hey, I mean, the guy was a really good looking guy. Braden was
Yes,
was a very,
your main
really,
character is even in the vampire movie. You got some
yeah,
hot eyes.
yep, very handsome, very good looking. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. So that was yeah, and so funny when going to the whole vampire theme, I I was looking for that next um Braden, which the guy who played Zombie Shotgun, who played Aaron the thing. When I was doing the zombie thing, that's what I felt that I needed. I needed that next new Braden that made my zombie go. I wanted that to be my vampire guy, and I knew that was him. I tell you, he was the very first guy. He's the guy that I worked with before. He's the very first guy that I called, and it was Faison, his name. And I remember calling Faison, and I told Faison, "Hey, I want to do a black vampire, and I'm not gonna do this project if you're not gonna be my vampire." And, and him and I,
It was made for you.
yep, him and I have such an amazing vibe. Him and I just get along so well, and with no hesitation or second guess, he says, "Oh, come on, of course." So it started from him, and then because he worked already on, actually he's in Zombie with a Shotgun. He's at the very end. I'm not going to spoil it if you didn't see it. You'll see him at the very end of the film, and having him on that was just the key. And then I had to find everything, and then Jim came on board, which was also key to Clan's Rules. And we wanted to make, you know, back to Clan's Rules, the vampire short. We wanted to continue to make it sort of like a web series. And even to this day, people tell us that we should create this whole series on it, but it's still up in the air. I mean, I get a lot of people telling me, "What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do?" It's just, everything else. Again, this is a very hard time to get investors on board on new projects, independently wise. And so you just never know.
You hear that, investors out there?
That's
Come on.
right.
Speaking of new projects, what have you got on the go? You've got the vampire one. What else have you got in the works?
It's interesting you say that. Going back to the Vampire Clans rules, the main Jim, the brown leather jacket actor we talked about, him and I are actually collaborating on a project, and we are working on a horror slash science fiction project that we're working on right now. And hopefully we could get that going sometime at the end of the year. So we've been working on that for quite a while, and hopefully that's going to be an awesome. Because it's a horror with a science fiction element to it, and I'm also going to be releasing an anthology feature film with 8 episodes that I created also during the pandemic. I made these 4 to 5 short projects to go with this anthology to have so 8 short films into this 1 hour and a half project, and should have that be out in 2 months. We locked the project is locked and it's getting music as we speak, and then the next elements of titles and sound mix, and we should have that out in 2 months. It's called 6666.
I saw that on your IMDb and your YouTube. Yeah, you've got that's interesting. That all the sixes and the date. I like that.
Yeah, it was like a homage to the 80s stories that we used to see in the 70s and the 80s, where um the birth of the devil, the evil entity, is born on 6666. So it's these 8 different stories that talks about the evil entity of this person that's born on that date.
Now let's get people to watch your trailer and watch your film, Zombie with the Shotgun. Let's talk about one scene that was really gross. I noticed the special effects were super cool. I like the special effects on the zombie makeup and all that. Can you give us a little bit of a hint about a really great scene that everybody liked that they can motivate them to go watch the film?
Yeah, there's a pretty cool stuff in the project. Um, of course, the zombified scene is probably the best scene. It's at the very end of the film where you can definitely see um, the Aaron, the character, fully zombified.
Oh,
You
zombified.
can't get any better special effects, makeup effects on somebody. That was like a top notch thing. We aim to get a great makeup artist to come on board to do the whole prosthetics and everything like that, to the hands, to the face, the neck, the hair. It is just an amazing makeup, and of course horror and zombie, makeup and horror and zombie all together. So that is something that I feel like people want to go see. Um, that cool magic of creating a person into this whole amazing zombie, and that is a very cool scene. And that's the scene that everybody waits for to see. Another cool scene that I put in the film, and we raised enough money to get by in this film. It's a true indie zombie film, um, that I had to pull tricks out of the hat and everything. And one of the things that I loved, and I think people are gonna love a lot. One of my favorite things when I was young, when I was I guess a teenager, you can say, was Liquid TV, which was an MTV. MTV had this program called Liquid TV. I'm not sure if you remember, and I think it used to come on, I think, in the weekends and everything. And there was one segment, that's where Eon Flux and Max, and there was one segment they used to have was called Stick Figure Theater, and it was this artist that would create stick figures, and he would take like famous scenes and imagine these famous scenes with stick figures. And he did a famous Night of the Living Dead scene when they're breaking into the house, but he did it with stick figures. You can also go on YouTube. And the artist was named Robin Steele, and that was one of my coolest things. I remember young, I was like, "Oh man, that was cool." And I remember when I was come up with ideas for the film, I always wanted to put an animated scene into Zombie with a Shotgun. There is a cool animation scene from the artist Robin Steele, who created that stick figure theater in MTV. And it's an amazing story. I found him online. I couldn't believe that I found his information. I couldn't believe he was. I was like, hey, I needed a contact him. I gave it a shot. Called him. I emailed him, and he called me. We talked about it. And there's a cool thing about Zombie with a Shotgun. Also, I'm going to give out. We start to learn that there's these bunny rabbits that we see in the film. Not going to
I
give
was
too much
wondering
away.
about that. I saw
Yeah.
that in your video game. I'm like, what's with the
Yeah,
bunny
so
rabbit?
there that we're going to see that in the sequel that we find out that Aaron loves bunny rabbits, right? So the sequence in Zombie with a Shotgun. I spoke to Robin Steele on the phone. He's like, "What do you want me to do?" He said, I showed him the rough cut of the film, and he goes, "What do you want me to do?" And I said, "Okay, do you remember the scene that I told you where I need you to do the animation?" I said, well, there's this thing with bunny rabbits and everything and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God. And he's like, I've never heard anybody would want to do a zombie film with rabbits. He says, I've never heard of a more awesome idea. He goes, I have to do it.
Okay, well, you
And I was,
had me. You had me a while
yeah,
ago.
you had him with the bunny rabbits and the
No, you had
zombie.
me with zombified. I thought, that'd be really cool on a T-shirt.
Yeah,
Zombified.
yeah, and he just loved that whole thing. It's so outstretched the idea that I was like, Ken, is he gonna? But he was an awesome. Him and his wife. I mean, they were awesome. Robin Steele, he works with his wife and helps him create these animation scenes and I remember him telling me that he needed something like that because he done after him doing you know sort of independent sort of love of the art of being an animator and his artist, he went to the corporate world, which of course is where the money is. And it's for years and years he's never able to do anything that was so cool and expressive and him. Because I told him, you got free range, you could do whatever you want to do, but here's the storyline. And he loved it, and it was just an awesome thing. And we're going. I'm going to be working back with him for the sequel. So two scenes when it's zombified, the very end, and look out for the animation scene in Zombie with a Shotgun.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show. Please check out Hilton's films and also look for that video game. Check them out on YouTube to see trailers, as well as I believe you've got some of your feature film out there for them to watch.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Hilton, for being on my show, and let's see more of you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're
Take
welcome.
care. Aha.